My mom called me, she was crying, and she was like, you need to get to the alley right now. I get to the alley, and then I just see tape. I see a white sheet, and I'm just like, no, 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 no.
This was during the day when everybody was out. It was blatant, not only because of who the victim was, but of where and when it happened.
The type of person that commits this crime is not a person at all. They need to get revenge, they need to get retaliation. Somebody's going to pay for this.
I'm killing everybody, the mothers, the grandmothers, the kids, and everybody. It's like what you call casualties of war.
Definitely the age of this victim would tug at anyone.
This was a case that brought the city to its knees. If you had a soul, it brought you to your knees.
November 2nd, 2015. It's 4:15 p.m. on a Monday. School has just let out, and Chicago's Gresham neighborhood is teeming with youthful energy.
You go in, you say hi to your family, and you're doing your best to get right back out the house so you can go play with your friends.
The kids, and they be at the park or in front of the house playing.
The Gresham neighborhood was a neighborhood that is closely connected. Everybody knows everybody. We still are under that be back in before the street lights come home type feel.
There was an early dismissal on that day from the school nearby. So there was a lot of children and teens in the park over there at Dawes Park at 80th and Damon.
And then the neighbors heard shots ring out.
They heard some gunshots. Eyewitnesses then discovered a child had been shot across from a park in an alley.
Calls pour in to 911. Within minutes, the Chicago Police Department is on the scene.
He was shot all in the front, I believe 4 times. And I believe one of his hands suffered a gunshot wound.
What appears to be the boys' basketball rests nearby.
A child was shot and killed. This one was different.
Definitely the age of this victim would tug at anyone. There was plenty of people around when Tyshawn was killed. It was 4:15 in the afternoon. It was daylight.
A man on the scene identifies the boy as his nephew, 9-year-old Tyshawn Lee. News reaches his mother.
My mom called me, she was crying. And she was like, you need to get to the alley right now. So I get to the alley. I'm trying to run to his body, but the police is like, no, you can't. We're not gonna let you go there. We don't want you to see that. And then I just see tape. I see a white sheet. My baby body, they got him covered up with a white sheet. I'm just like, no.
Your child, your 9-year-old, your 4th grader. It would have been every parent's nightmare.
I remember this so well. I just tried to go back to sleep. And I remember the police officer, he was like, no, Carla, this is not a dream. This is life. This is really what's happening. This is not a dream. They think I started going crazy.
This was a case that brought the city to its knees. Chicago is not new to murder. Chicago is not new to sensationalism. But this particular case, if you had a soul, it brought you to your knees.
For Tyshawn's parents, Carla Lee and Pierre Stokes, having a family was never part of the plan.
I was 15 at the time. Me and Pierre, we ended up kind of like dating. He just liked me a lot. And, I mean, honestly, we both were bad, but I just thought he was better. We always want to go after the bad boys who's tough. We only dated for like a month. Me and Pierre never had a relationship. It was never a real relationship.
But a few months after they parted ways, the teenage fling yielded an unexpected surprise.
I was sleeping a lot, and my mom noticed, she said I started gaining weight a little bit. And I picked up a pregnancy test, found out that it was positive. My mom said she's gonna have this baby, she's gonna raise this baby, and we'll be here to help her. I was scared because I don't know how to raise a kid. I'm just a kid myself. So I was very afraid. I didn't know how I was gonna take care of him.
Well, when Carla got pregnant, I used to always put my head down on her and Tyshawn would just kick and kick. I was excited because I love kids. So, first baby in a family. So everybody was excited.
On January 23rd, 2006, Carla gave birth to Tyshawn.
I was scared because when I finally got him out, he was silent. They spanked him, and that's when my heart was just like, because he was like, ah! I was like, oh, like I got life then. I was like, oh, okay, he's alive.
He was excited. He was at the house just waiting for the news. Well, he comes home, we see him, everybody falls in love with Tyshawn.
Carla raised him with little involvement from Pierre.
When I used to say, Tyshawn, do you want to go over your dad's house? He'd be like, I don't want to go over there. I don't want to go. I'd be like, well, okay. I mean, I'm not going to force him. If you're not around, he doesn't know you. He don't want to be around you.
In many ways, that was okay with Carla.
Pierre, and he's running the streets. He's getting into it. Everybody, you know right then and now, you don't need to have a baby better because you never know what's going to happen.
Instead, Carla leaned on her family for support.
My mom used to always get him when he was a baby, so I had a little more time with him. As Tyshawn was growing up, I used to always take them out on outings, go to the zoo, go to the park, out to eat. Basketball was Tyshawn's favorite sport. He got into basketball at school, in parks, the other kids playing basketball, so he picked up on it.
My son always thought that he was gonna make it to the NBA. I did not once doubt him. I told him, baby, you can do whatever you put your mind to. And when we played basketball for the first time, I had never seen my son play like that. You can really play ball. He played ball every day. When he get out of school, he would drop his bags and he would go to the park. He make friends so easily. I'm like, oh, Jesus. Every time I look around, he got a new friend.
In November 2015, Carla had plans to surprise Tyshawn with a big announcement.
Me and my sister was moving in together. We had got a 3-bedroom, and, I was so excited. My baby's life gonna be lit.
But on November 2nd, Carla's plans are shattered when Tyshawn is found shot to death in an alley. His cousin Tiara tells police she'd seen the boy just an hour before.
About 3-ish, I rode around my grandmother's house, seen Tyshawn walking from school. I said, hey, hurry up and go home. And I drove off.
Tyshawn went to his grandmother's house where he left his backpack and headed to the park with his beloved basketball. Within an hour, he was gone.
No words to explain what has just happened. We didn't know nothing and why this had happened to him. We thought it was like a drive-by or something.
Investigators make the same consideration.
Sometimes children get shot, whether it's a drive-by, they're inside of a home, they get hit with an errant bullet. It usually is an accidental shooting, just an innocent bystander in a drive-by.
But based on the gunshot wounds to Tyshawn's face and head, investigators consider a more disturbing possibility.
All the gunshots were in the front of Tyshawn's body, and one was in his hand. And as detectives, we believed he had his hands up, knowing what was going to happen to him.
This appeared to the responding detectives and officers to be, almost an execution. that is difficult to wrap your head. But then when the target is a young child, is even worse. So from that, it was really spare no expense to try to bring these people to justice.
Somebody was going to talk. Somebody was going to pay.
In November 2015, detectives with the Chicago Police Department are investigating the shocking death of 9-year-old Tyshawn Lee, who was shot in an alley near the park where he played basketball after school.
It's not like this was, done when no one was around. This was during the day when everybody was out. It was blatant, not only because of who the victim was, but of where and when it happened.
There is little evidence at the scene aside from the young boy's basketball. Investigators collected as evidence.
That's a very difficult surface to get fingerprints from, but some people, even their sweat secretes some minute portions of their DNA evidence, so that's what they're going to recover.
Investigators shift their focus to the stunned onlookers that have gathered at the scene.
We tried to interview as many people as we could that were on the scene, witnesses.
Detectives suspect that the killing was intentional. Witness accounts support this chilling theory.
What the eyewitnesses said is a black vehicle pulled up. Some people exited the vehicle, walked with that child into the alley, and they heard some gunshots, and then the people from that vehicle got back into the vehicle and then drove away.
As investigators search for the vehicle, media seizes on the story. The tragic details capture the city of Chicago and beyond.
This particular crime transcended the boundaries of the city, of the metro area, of the suburbs, mainly due to the cold-heartedness and the age of the victim.
I'm seeing news blogs, Instagram. I see everyone reposting them, talking about the situation.
When he first got killed, it was all over the news and everything. Somebody just killed a little baby, that didn't stand a chance.
People like, I can't believe this happened, man. How did this happen anyway, right?
The Chicago Police Department holds a press conference in the days after the killing.
I just rushed and we went out there to the scene, to the press conference, and there were so many people out there just trying to give their support and everything.
We need people to speak up. This boy was 9 years old, and he has a mother, and he has a father, and he deserves justice.
A representative from a local church steps up to the mic and offers a $5,000 reward for information leading to the killer or killers. Before long, the reward is up to $54,000.
So now the streets are abuzz. The streets are talking, people are upset, and now it's pressure on the streets because it's not just a Chicago thing. This has hit nationally. You have celebrities, you have newsrooms across the nation reporting on this crime.
Amidst a media uproar and the ongoing investigation, Tyshawn's grieving family plans his funeral.
I was like, hey, I'm ready to do this. I need the best funeral that you can give me. And when I got there, she was just like, don't worry about paying for anything. I got you on everything.
Tyshawn's casket was very customized. His little 9-year-old body was being pulled by a horse and carriage, and they gave him the send-off that was so deserving yet heartbreaking because no one should be burying their 9-year-old child.
It was hard to say goodbye, to let go.
It was a very sober, somber, heartbreaking day for the city of Chicago. People came out, flooded the streets, knowing that this was the day that we were finally going to put Tyshawn to rest.
The funeral is attended by hundreds, including both local and national celebrities.
Nick Cannon came out. And to see Nick Cannon, a celebrity, sitting front and center, he was sitting right in front of me.
As a nation joins Tyshawn's family in grief, investigators stay focused on finding those responsible for his death.
When you have such a microscope on a case like this, you leave no stone unturned and you make sure that you get it right. So you go street by street, literally doing the footwork, talking to who you can talk to.
A few days after the shooting, investigators speak with a man who claims his brother drives a black SUV like the one seen leaving the scene.
We start hearing about Kevin Edwards, and we start hearing about this black SUV that he was driving.
He said in recent days he had been driving a black Ford Edge, and he didn't know where he got the vehicle from, but he knew it wasn't his. His brother hadn't seen Kevin or the car since the murder of Tyshawn Lee.
Investigators check records for anything related to a black Ford Edge in the neighborhood.
As a matter of fact, it was parked one time blocking a driveway, and the Chicago police issued a ticket on that vehicle, and we got the license plate off the parking ticket. Once we had the license plate from the parking ticket, we put that in a database. We found out that the car was reported stolen off the lot from the rental car company.
Investigators issue a be on the lookout on the vehicle. Unsure about Kevin's connection to the case, investigators keep their ear to the ground. Tips begin to pour in, and rumors run rampant.
Normally, you would not snitch. That was not the case with Tyshawn. This crime touched the hearts of so many people. Somebody was going to talk.
Investigators note a theme amidst the chatter.
Rumor has it that there was an inhumane, cruel plan to murder Tyshawn as a result to get back to his father, Pierre Stokes.
Chicago police are investigating the shooting death of 9-year-old Tyshawn Lee. In the days after his death, tips start coming in and an alarming theme emerges.
Tyshawn Lee was murdered because of his father, Pierre Stokes.
It was apparent that there was a conflict between the two little rival groups in the Auburn Gresham community.
In addition to Kevin Edwards, the tipsters placed 27-year-old Corey Morgan and 21-year-old Dwight Boone Doty at the heart of the feud. A feud that began with another killing just 2 weeks before.
We start hearing these names about potential people who was involved. We start hearing about Corey Morgan.
It was discovered that Tracy Morgan, who was Corey Morgan's brother, was murdered in mid-October.
Tracy had his mother in the car. Tracy was ultimately killed and murdered. The mother was wounded.
Corey Morgan believed Pierre Stokes was responsible.
Investigators reach out to those close to the three men.
We started to interview the families. Some people wanted to cooperate, and as usual, many did not.
Those who are willing to talk report that Corey was on a mission in the days following his brother's death.
So Corey Morgan was out for retaliation and revenge, not just for the brutal murder of his brother, but for his mom being wounded. At this point, all bets were off, because one thing you don't do is you don't mess with family, and you definitely don't mess with anyone's mom.
Corey was telling anyone who would listen that the new rule was no rules.
They shot and killed my brother, and they shot my mother. I'm killing everybody, the mothers, the grandmothers, the kids, and everybody.
Somebody was going to pay. Which brings us to Pierre Stokes, Tyshawn's father.
They wanted to make Pierre suffer.
Corey recruited Dwight and Kevin to help him.
These three individuals, Boone Doty, Corey Morgan, and Kevin Edwards, had planned to look for Pierre Stokes, the father of Tyshawn Lee, who they believed was responsible for the murder of Tracy Morgan. Once they couldn't find Pierre Stokes, they would plan every day to go look for Tyshawn Lee.
Investigators tried to question Pierre about the crime, but he does not make himself available for an interview.
He was saying that he had nothing to do with it. Because of his street cred is why they thought that he did it. But he didn't do it.
When detectives question Carla, she tells them she understands why Pierre's reputation is cause for speculation.
Why would they think it's Pierre? Because Pierre's loud. Everything he do, he's loud. He has to be everybody knows my name, everybody knows that I'm tough, everybody knows I'm not gonna play with them. They said, do you know if your baby's father know anything about it? I said, I don't know.
She reveals that she has also heard the rumors about Corey's involvement.
Not long after my son was killed, one of Pierre's associates called and said, hey, if the police ask you what happened to your son or do I know anything about anything, tell them that Corey Morgan did it.
But Carla tells them she would be shocked if they were true.
It was known to Tyshawn. We all grew up together. We all from the same neighborhood. We played together, we talked.
But I did say, well, somebody did tell me that just Corey had something to do with my son's murder.
Almost 2 weeks after the shooting, detectives create a photo lineup that includes Corey, Dwight, and Kevin.
We were able to get their pictures, put them in photo arrays, and have the witnesses from the park identify them.
But investigators need more than photo IDs and rumors.
The police didn't want to simply rely on witness identifications, what people felt like they saw. They wanted the hard evidence because nobody wanted to see these guys walk away.
Detectives increased their efforts to locate the black Ford Edge Kevin is alleged to be driving. Over a week after the shooting, detectives get a call from police in Dalton, Illinois.
About 30, 40 minutes away from the scene, there was a strange car just sitting here on a dead-end street or on a residential road where people know it doesn't belong. But an officer ran the license plate and said, here's that stolen car.
Chicago police are investigating the shooting of 9-year-old Tyshawn Lee. They believe the 3 men responsible fled in a black Ford SUV. Over a week after Tyshawn's death, the vehicle is found just outside the city.
It was a black Ford Edge abandoned in Dalton, Illinois. And when Dalton recovered it, it was then towed back for further processing.
Forensic experts process the car. They immediately note a strong and suspicious smell.
It's obviously been bleached. It appeared that the offenders tried to cover their tracks by using some sort of bleach within the interior of the car.
But the SUV may hold evidence that can't be destroyed.
They said, is there anything we can get out of this vehicle? We looked online, and it looks like you can do extractions from these infotainment systems. Infotainment system is like the navigation system you get in a car and you pair your phone to it, and it's that navigation portion. Late one night, we went up where the car was being housed. There is a hard drive encased in like a aluminum package. So all it is, some set screws and some plugs, and I unplugged it. You hook it up to a laptop through a breadboard, and then do the extraction there.
Through the systems in this car, they were able to see where the car traveled, where the car was sitting.
November 2nd, 2015, the vehicle gets turned on and goes westbound, it goes southbound, and then it goes into the mouth of the alley where the homicide is committed.
Investigators are ready to confront the suspects. They receive a tip that Dwight and Corey are holed up at a hotel just outside the city.
My partner and I proceeded to that hotel and set up surveillance and waited for them to come out. Our surveillance only lasted about 30 minutes. Boone Doty and Corey Morgan exited the hotel and were getting in an Uber. At that time, Boone Doty leaned in to open the car door, and his shirt came up and we could see a gun was in his waistband. We knew he was a convicted felon, so we knew we could arrest him for that gun. We followed him back into Chicago. We asked for help over the radio, and we eventually stopped the vehicle. Boone Doty was placed under arrest, and the gun was recovered from his waistband. Corey Morgan was placed under arrest, and there was a gun recovered from the duffel bag that was inside the vehicle that they had when they exited the hotel. They were both placed into custody and subsequently charged with unlawful use of a weapon. So that was unrelated to the murder of Tyshawn Lee.
It's soon clear that investigators won't be getting any answers out of them.
Once they were read their rights, they invoked their privilege to have an attorney and refused to speak to us. We had those guns tested that evening by the Chicago Police Department forensics, and neither gun matched the evidence from the murder.
Kevin Edwards is harder to find.
Kevin fled right after the murder, and we weren't able to find him. We didn't know where he was.
Investigators need a break. In January 2016, they get one in the form of a phone call from an inmate at the Cook County Jail, where Dwight Boone Doty is still being held on the gun charge. The inmate claims that Dwight has had loose lips since being booked.
He was bragging about how he killed Tyshawn Lee, talked about how he shot him.
Dwight wanted to tell anybody who would listen about what he did. He's actually bragging and making a rap song that he has shot Tyshawn 15 times. He's proud of this murder. And so now we have someone who basically, has their ear to the ground and say, hey, I've heard about this case. I heard about what's going on.
Detectives need more than a secondhand account.
They wanted to write Doty on jail tapes, bragging on this murder.
Chicago detectives are honing in on the man they believe may have pulled the trigger in the shooting death of 9-year-old Tyshawn Lee. Dwight Boone Doty is being held in the Cook County Jail on unrelated charges, where he is running his mouth to his cellmate about his alleged role in the crime.
Dwight Doty is willingly bragging about the crime that they committed. Keep in mind that this is not a crime that you would traditionally brag about.
On January 12, 2016, investigators outfit the informant with a wire. They listen in as he engages Dwight in conversation.
Dwight was all too happy to give him facts, information. They need to get revenge. They need to get retaliation. Somebody's going to pay for this.
Once they couldn't find Pierre Stokes, they would plan every day to go look for Tyshawn Lee.
Dwight gives up disturbing details, including how he, Corey, and Kevin spent the days before the shooting watching Tyshawn.
November 2nd, 2015, after spending days stalking, watching, preying on this child, this is the day that they decide to make their move. So the men get out the car. They approach him like it's any other day. They see him bouncing the ball. They see him in the essence of his childhood and his innocence, knowing in the back of their mind everything that they were going to do.
Tyshawn was familiar with the assailants. So they were talking to him about basketball and all that kind of stuff. So they lured him to the back alley with the promise of, giving him some video games, talking a little basketball.
Once they lured him into the alley, Mr. Doty began to shoot him. He lifted up his hands to shield himself from being shot at. They lured Tyshawn in this alley, and then they began to, in the most harshest manner, execute this child.
Based on Dwight's recorded statement, investigators have a clear picture as to how Tyshawn's death unfolded.
Kevin Edwards was the driver of the vehicle. Boone Doty, he was the shooter. He's the one who assassinated Tyshawn Lee. And Corey Morgan is the one who orchestrated everything. He's the one that put the plan in place. He's the one that put these guys together. He's the one that called the shots to kill Tyshawn Lee.
By March 2016, investigators are able to charge both Dwight and Corey with first-degree murder in connection with Tyshawn's death.
They're in custody. We got warrants from the state's attorneys, so they approved the charges. So with Corey Morgan and Boone Doty in custody, we had an outstanding warrant for Kevin Edwards. We continued to look for Kevin, but we couldn't find him.
Less than 2 months later, detectives get a phone call.
Eventually, the Danville Police Department stopped Kevin Edwards for traffic violations in May of 2016. That's when our warrant popped on Kevin Edwards. He was placed into custody. We were notified, and we went down and arrested Kevin Edwards.
With Kevin's arrest, the community of Gresham breathes a collective sigh of relief. Almost 6 months after Tyshawn's tragic death, his alleged killers are all behind bars.
Yeah, I was happy. I was like, oh my God, yes, they caught them. Oh my God. I was very happy, relieved.
You hear about it on breaking news. The Chicago police, well, I salute them, because they was on top of it. They caught him so quick.
Prosecutors turn all of their attention to making sure the 3 men stay behind bars. They know the case will not be without challenges.
At this point in time, the police, the prosecutors, they didn't actually have the murder weapon. So they had to get everything that they had to build a culmination of evidence. Every murder is important. Every murder shows a life that was taken. And so naturally, the prosecutors and the police officers want to bring the person to justice. But this case was a lot different. There was not just local pressure, there was national pressure to bring these people to justice.
By 2019, 4 years have passed since the death of 9-year-old Tyshawn Lee. His family and community are eager to see the 3 men accused of taking part in his death face justice.
When you lose your only child, that's really, I don't care what you're doing, where you at. That's all you can really think of. Like, really, that's really all you can think about.
We're talking almost 4 years. 4 years that the community had to wait for justice. 4 years of just wanting to see how this case would play out.
In September of 2019, accused getaway driver Kevin Edwards faces the music.
So Kevin Edwards took a plea deal and was sentenced to 25 years for his role in Tyshawn's murder. He's the one who brought the other 2 to the scene, who blocked in the alley. And so for his role, he was given 25 years.
A month later, the case against Corey Morgan and Dwight Boone Doty goes to trial. They're tried in the same courtroom by 2 different juries. The 2 men are quick to turn on each other as their respective defenses attempt to lay blame at the other's feet.
Corey Morgan is the mastermind, the godfather, the puppeteer. He's the one pulling all the strings and calling all of the shots.
But Corey's attorneys stay focused on the claim that Dwight was the only one who fired a weapon that day.
Boone Doty, he was the shooter. He's the one who assassinated Tyshawn Lee.
Prosecutors argue that both men bear responsibility for the planning of Tyshawn's death and the act of killing him. They present shocking new evidence that, when first conceived, the evil plot was even more sinister than what actually took place.
The plan was to kidnap Tyshawn, to torture Tyshawn, to make Tyshawn beg for his life, to feel everything that they wish that they could inflicted upon the father. This innocent 9-year-old fourth grader.
Even without a murder weapon, prosecutors have plenty of evidence to present to the two juries.
You have the forensic evidence, you have the technology evidence. Now you have this jailhouse informant who has a person that is willingly bragging about the crime that they committed.
Prosecutors also present proof that Dwight handled Tyshawn's most prized possession, the basketball found next to his body.
They bleached the interior of the car. They didn't bleach the basketball, and there was mixed DNA, from what I understand, from the victim and from the offender on that ball.
As prosecutors wrap up, they once again zero in on the callous, cold-hearted nature of the crime.
The type of person that commits this type of crime is not a person at all. The type of person that commits this type of crime is devoid of consciousness, is devoid of a soul, is devoid of checks and balances. This type of person is a person that can do this to a child, go home, go to sleep at night, brag about it, make a song about it, and think it bumps his street cred. That's the type of person you need to be deathly afraid of.
As the trial draws to a close, Tyshawn's family, friends, and supporters are all present. But one face is missing: Tyshawn's mother, Carla.
The prosecutors actually advised Tyshawn's mom that maybe it would be best if she was not in the courtroom and that she kind of sit that out to kind of preserve what was left of her heart space, her mental health.
They don't want me to come because they just feel I won't be able to handle it. Because I don't know where my brain was at. I couldn't really think. I couldn't eat.
For most people, trials bring some type of peace, some type of satisfaction. But here, it was reopening a wound that never healed in the first place.
In early October, the two trials conclude, and the juries reach verdicts for both men.
So now we're here, we're in this courtroom, we're waiting with bated breath.
Dwight and Corey are found guilty of first-degree murder.
And what the juries ultimately saw was two men sitting there who apparently had no remorse, no second guessing about what they had done. So now we see the sentences for Corey Morgan and Dwight Doty come down. Corey Morgan was sentenced to 65 years in prison. And then we have Dwight Doty, who was our shooter, was ultimately given 90 years. Illinois no longer has a death penalty, so that's essentially as being in jail without the possibility of parole for the rest of your life. And then you have some people that will argue that that still was not enough.
She was very beautiful. She carried herself like a woman. Men loved her.
She wanted to be a wife. She was always looking for love. The police officers came in, they were very kind, but I could tell that something was seriously wrong.
They find a female laying at the bottom of the stairs, curled up in the fetal position, not moving. A male lying on the couch, bleeding severely.
They go upstairs with their guns drawn to check all the rooms.
There were 3 witnesses.
I just knew he was the devil right then and there.
When he was clear, he was the best guy around. When he was on the drugs, there was an evil in his eyes.
You are my everything. Without you, I can't breathe.
He went to the house, he looked in through the window, and he flipped out.
She broke my heart, so I blew hers out.
Colorado Springs is about 70 miles south of Denver.
Colorado Springs area in the 90s was heavily military. There is a U.S. Olympic Training Center here. The U.S. Olympic Committee was based right here in Colorado Springs for quite a while. And they built a really state-of-the-art training center. So they trained all kinds of different athletes.
On February 4th, 1993, Colorado Springs Police Dispatch receives a panicked 911 call from a townhome on Vail Pass Drive.
The police department received a notification about 1:58 a.m. of a domestic violence disturbance at this location.
Moments later, a second call comes in. This time, the caller reports gunfire.
That's updated to shots being fired. When that happens, you have a lot more units responding.
Police arrive and they're responding to a shots fired call. They need to secure the scene first, so they have their guns drawn.
The door was open, so they enter the residence. They find a female laying at the bottom of the stairs. She's curled up in the fetal position, not moving. They observe a male. He is bleeding severely on the couch, but he is still breathing.
They ask, who did this? And the only thing that he can say is, help me.
With both victims suffering from what appear to be life-threatening injuries, paramedics work quickly to get them into ambulances.
With all of this going on, the police are still very cautious. They begin to climb the stairs with their guns drawn because they're not sure if the suspect is still in the home or not.
They go upstairs to check all the rooms. They make sure that the suspect is no longer there.
Instead, they find the unexpected.
They'd noticed 3 children in one of the rooms.
We stayed in the room. The police officers came in. They were very kind. They looked like, everybody was very distraught. I could tell that something was seriously wrong in a lot of their faces.
At the same time, a woman, Gwen Watson, shows up at the scene.
Gwen did leave the residence to go call 911 to get police response. She comes running back in after police are on scene.
Gwen tells police that she does know the victims in the home, that the woman at the bottom of the stairs is Pam Edwards, her friend, and that Frederick Hill, he was the man who they found on the couch.
Gwen says the boy is her son. 2 young girls, 8-year-old Lamaya and 7-year-old Tanea, belong to Pam.
It was me, Tanea, Gwen, and Robert. You can go through so many experiences in your life, right? A lot of memories, a lot of things. Some things you remember, some things you don't. But that kind of trauma just don't never leave. It doesn't. It's there.
Pamela Edwards was born on January 14th, 1967, in Winona, Mississippi.
And it was 7 of us, 4 girls, 3 boys, and my mother. We left Mississippi when I was 13, so we ended up living there in Colorado. Pam, let me tell you, she just was a joy. And when she was alive in people's life, everybody loved her. Even when she was small to when she was growing up. Everybody loved being around Pam.
As a teenager, Pam fell in love for the first time. Motherhood followed.
I was military, and majority of the time, I wasn't around, but I knew she was in love with him. I knew she was in love with him.
Lamaya was born in 1984, followed by Tanea the following year.
She was the mother. And, at a young age, you really don't know much about caring, but she cared for her kids.
Growing up with her was fun. We would have fun times. She used to like to build tents and play like Army Force and do crazy things with us.
She was always full of adventures, just always having something going on. If we were walking up the stairs, she would have a little cute song to go up the stairs to. She would make a song about cleaning the room. Everything was like a song and dance with this lady. That's my mom.
Pam's relationship with the girl's father didn't last, but her dedication to her kids did not waver.
She worked. That's one thing she always did, was work. She was going to provide and make sure that they have a home.
She was a nurse today, and she loved her patients like they were her family, and they loved her.
She always came home and spoke about them. Sometimes she would cry when some of them passed away. Like, she was really, really a caring person, and she loved what she did.
Despite her busy schedule, Pam paid careful attention to her appearance.
She was like a Marilyn Monroe. She was fashionista. You never caught her off guard. I mean, she was always together.
She wanted to be a wife. She wanted a family, so she was always looking for love in a man all the time. Even though she had me and my sister, she always wanted, you know, the father.
On October 21st, 1990, 23-year-old Pam married an aspiring basketball player named Eugene Edwards.
She liked the guys that were very athletic.
He was like on his way to being a professional basketball player. He played in college, he won CBA, and like basketball was his life. My stepdad was amazing. They loved him. And he loved my mom too. They were young. They had a young, beautiful love.
But after 3 years of marriage, Eugene's busy career took a toll.
He was traveling for the NBA and doing all those, and he had women always at his heels. They would take breaks often. They separated, but it was like he was still trying to come back. They were still trying to work on it, but I think both of them were seeing other people. She went to the gym all the time. She always used to go after work. She would work out and stay fit. That's where she met Jamal.
He is a boxer at the Olympic Training Center. He was very athletic, tall, handsome. He was an Olympic hopeful, and she was really into him.
We all called him Jamal. That's what he was introduced to us by. But his name was Sammy Lee Denson.
I just remember thinking he was a giant, and he was really like cool, like automatically joking with us. And he took us to the carnival. We rode rides together. She was seeing Jamal and still trying to figure out what she wanted to do in her marriage.
But for Jamal, there was no question. He was in love.
When Pam walked in the room, I mean, people just crowded her. I mean, men loved her. She was beautiful. She was very beautiful. She carried herself like a woman.
But in February of 1993, 26-year-old Pam is being rushed by ambulance to a local hospital after suffering multiple gunshot wounds.
When I first arrived on scene, I also found out that there were 3 children present and an adult female present upstairs. I learned that the adult female had 1 child up there, and the other 2 children were the children of Pam Edwards.
I remember him telling me, like, you know, we all have guns, you know, you're safe. All those people out there, they have guns, you know, we're gonna protect you. So I remember them being like, making me feel really safe. I felt safe as soon as they came.
They isolated us all in one room, in my mom's room, upstairs. We were in that room, it felt like days and hours. They wouldn't let us come down because it was a crime scene.
We didn't want to bring them down because they would have had to pass right over the worst contaminated area of the scene, blood contamination of the scene, and it would have been a little more traumatic than we were willing to put these kids through. Officers are securing the scene, 1, to protect the scene from being contaminated, and 2, to protect our witnesses, the kids and Gwen, and those were our primary witnesses, and also in case the guy comes back.
Colorado Springs police are on the scene of a shooting. Victims 26-year-old Pamela Edwards and 25-year-old Frederick Hill have been rushed to nearby hospitals. Soon after investigators arrive, they get an update from hospital staff.
One went to one hospital, one went to the other hospital. Frederick Hill was being treated for multiple gunshot wounds. He would hopefully be a witness if he survived.
But Pam Edwards will never tell her story.
The female victim, which was identified as Pam Edwards, had been pronounced dead by the time she had arrived at the hospital.
Pam suffered 4 gunshot wounds.
One was described as a perforating wound to the arm. A bullet had passed through the hand. One was described as a penetrating wound to the chest where it entered the body but didn't exit. And a third was identified as a perforating wound to the abdomen, exiting through the backside, the bottom, the rear. The wound that was in their chest had actually perforated the aorta, and that was identified as the kill shot.
Homicide detectives take stock of the townhome where the shooting took place.
Once you enter the scene, you can see where one victim had been shot and had bled excessively on the floor right at the base of the stairs. You could get into the living room area. You could also see where another victim had apparently been shot and either came to rest on the couch or was laying on the couch when he was shot because there was a large quantity of blood in that area. You could see a couple shell casings, small caliber semi-automatic handgun. The shell casings were .380 automatic. The front door was open. It wasn't forced open. There's no damage to indicate it was a kick-in or anything like that.
Investigators believe someone let the assailant in.
Then police needed to interview everybody in the house, and so that was Gwen.
Gwen tells them she'd fallen on hard times, and Pam had taken her in until she got back on her feet.
Gwen and my mom, they became friends from the mutual friend. She had a little son, and she didn't have anywhere to go. I think she left her mom's house, and she needed somewhere to stay.
Gwen tells investigators that earlier in the night, they watched a movie with the kids and then put them to bed.
A short time later, another party came by the name of Kenny. Gwen explained to me that Kenny was a party she knew as Frederick Kenneth Hill. He'd go by Frederick, he'd go by Kenny. He was the second victim in the case.
At some point in the night, Gwen reports that she went upstairs to make a phone call and left Frederick and Pam downstairs.
She then hears banging at the door, saying, "Let me in." She tells us by the voice that she's hearing, she knows it to be Jamal.
Gwen tells police that Jamal is a 6'4" man who is also Pam's boyfriend. And before Gwen knows it, she hears at least 5 gunshots go off in the house.
After not hearing something for a little bit of time, she's hoping Jamal has left. She thinks he has because she hasn't heard anything, so she goes down to check. She sees Pam crumpled down at the bottom of the stairs, laying in a fetal position. She can hear the person she identified as Kenny kind of making some sounds. She sees Kenny laying on the couch that had a lot of blood on his leg.
She rushes back upstairs, gets on the phone, calls 911, but she's worried that Jamal might still be in the house and could hear her if she speaks on the phone, so she hangs up. Then she's worried that, 911 might call back and Jamal might hear the phone ring, so she unplugs the phone. She knows she needs help, so she runs out of the house, goes to a neighbor to call 911.
As Gwen finishes her story, one of Pam's daughters speaks up.
Lamaya, the 8-year-old, she tells police, "Well, I saw things."
I was literally on the foyer of the townhome, and I was at the top, and I was looking down, watching.
In February 1993, Colorado Springs detectives are investigating the fatal shooting of 26-year-old Pamela Edwards. Pam's daughters tell investigators they were awakened by arguing.
Frederick, Kenneth Hill, and my mother and Gwen were all awake downstairs before I went to sleep. It was like a heated conversation between Kenny and Gwen, because it was like some loud talking going on, but I didn't know, exactly what was being said.
She also advised that there was a relationship between Gwen and Frederick. She describes him as being intoxicated and arguing.
And my mom was like, you guys can't have this going. And my mother was trying to get him to calm down.
Gwen ends up going upstairs and is talking to some friends on the phone while Pam and Frederick are hanging out down in the living room.
Tanea says she fell asleep, but Lamaya was still awake a few minutes later when she heard pounding on the front door.
Boom, 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 boom. My mom's like, hold on a minute.
Lamaya was awake and did hear some of the commotion going on downstairs. She went to the top of the stairs and looked down.
And I was at the top and I was looking down, watching. And my mother opened the door. He's oh, you're trying to mess with this guy. And she was like, no, Jamal. And I just remember watching like the first bullet. I mean, I watched the first bullet as she was trying to put her hands up to protect herself. And then he shot again, then he turned the gun on Kenny.
Jamal fled through the front door.
And I was just standing there screaming and yelling and screaming, mommy. But I was in real life shock. Nobody knows what that means, like real life shock, where you wanna move and your body cannot even move. Like you wanna run and your body can't even run. The only thing that I was able to do was scream. My mom was still laying there and she was breathing really heavy and Kenny was screaming for help. He was like, please, hurry up, please. Please help me, please.
Lamaya rushed back to her sister in the bedroom.
I remember my sister running, saying, Mom's dead, Tanea, Mom's dead. And I'm like, what? I just was frozen, like, what? She's dead. And I got up and we went to the edge of the stairs and I saw her. And she was curled up in a fetal position. It was a lot of blood coming from up underneath her. And it looked like she was trying to talk, but it was blood coming from her mouth as well. It looked like she was trying to tell us to go back upstairs. I ran to the bottom of the stairs and she tried to cover my eyes and I just ran to my mom. I was trying to help her. Mm-hmm.
Tanaya told police that while she was downstairs, Jamal actually came back in the house and went upstairs. Tanaya also went upstairs to hide in her room, but she was able to see what was going on.
He ran upstairs and he had an extra pair of clothes and he changed the clothes that he had on and he left.
He went to the trouble of changing his clothes when he was still at Pam's house, but he put his blue Olympic jacket back on.
Then investigators noticed something clutched in Lamaya's tiny hand.
This letter from Jamal to Pam is clearly discussing a recent breakup, how it's torturing Jamal, how he wants to be back with her, and how difficult this process has been for him.
Jamal describes his obsession with Pam and how his uncertainty is becoming unbearable.
You are my everything. Without you, I can't breathe. You are the one who just fills my day.
It was even signed Jamal, or J with a couple hyphens.
Gwen and the girls tell investigators that this wasn't the first time Jamal was violent with Pam.
Gwen described this relationship as happening for about 1.5 years. And the relationship with Jamal and Pam starting out very well, but that things became quite turbulent and that especially in the last few months, things had really started to break down.
I'll never forget when I met him, he brought a bag of Cheetos and some Mountain Dew when he walked in our house. And I just knew he was the devil right then and there.
We were at one of his boxing matches, and like he came out of the ring and started fighting the guys that were sitting and watching the fight because he thought my mother and them were giving each other the eye. And he beat up 2 of those guys at one time. And yeah, it was like so crazy. The whole boxing match got canceled and they had to call the police, and he was just like, oh, it was so scary. And then after, we went to the hotel room, and I think that's the first time I witnessed her getting beat up by him.
Jamal was the type of, oh, I'm sorry, Pam, with the gifts and things like that. So it'd be, oh, Pam, I got this for you, I got that. So it would always be like a type of gift to wing his way back in to get into her life. And then a week or 2 later, then the beatings start.
There was one time he went to jail for beating her up real bad, gave her black eyes, and broke her arm.
Pam had enough. She filed a restraining order.
Restraining orders are obviously, they're only as good as the piece of paper they're written on, because if the guy's not going to buy it doesn't mean anything. It's not going to get up and protect you. This appeared to be a domestic violence homicide.
Investigators immediately launch a manhunt for Sammy Denson, aka Jamal.
We were able to positively identify who Jamal was because of what Lamaya had told me. She stated that yes, everybody knew him by Jamal, but she knew him as Sammy Denson also because that's the name he used when he was boxing.
And so the dispatch airs a description of the suspect. They air that they're looking for a 6'4" black man, about 200 pounds, around 27 years old, who is wearing a black Olympic jacket.
Before the hunt has time to amp up, another disturbing call comes into 911.
We're still processing the scene and preparing things when the police department received a telephone call from a party who made a very simple statement as, I shot those 2 people. And that started a whole nother ball rolling.
Colorado Springs police are still at the townhome where Pam Edwards lost her life in a fatal shooting just hours earlier, when another 911 call comes into dispatch.
This 911 operator received a telephone call approximately 3:50 in the morning from a party who basically stated that he was sorry that he had shot the people at Vail Pass Drive. That was our crime scene, so it was pretty much sure we're probably talking to the suspect. Before she's able to get any information, he hangs up the phone.
Police then trace that call, and they find that the call was made from a payphone at a loafing jug on Pikes Peak Avenue.
Officers were dispatched to go to that location. They were provided the suspect information that we had. It was the clothing description. And one of the particular items of clothing description was a Olympic Training Center jacket. There was an officer just happened to be close, so he pulled in. He didn't see anybody at the payphone. He did notice that in this little convenience store, they had a little seating area to where you buy some food and sit down and eat or drink a cup of coffee, and there were 3 people there.
They notice that one gentleman stands up, and they notice, hey man, he kind of fits the description. Plus, he has on Olympic gear.
As more patrol cars arrive, the man steps outside.
They have a bunch of officers, and they are approaching very carefully. That's a big guy, and he's a boxer. He's a pre-Olympic boxer. He is in stellar shape. That means he's going to be strong, he's going to be fast, he's going to be mean, and he's going to know how to throw a punch.
They want to talk to him, and when they try to stop him, they say, if you move, you are dead, but he still decides to take off. The police are behind him about 10 or 15 yards, and as he's running, he's able to jump 2 fences.
They finally catch up to him at a house, and it takes, at that point, 10 police officers to bring him down.
Upon his arrest, he's searched for the officers. In the course of that arrest, they took everything from him to include some suspected crack cocaine, drug paraphernalia, a pipe and screen used for smoking crack cocaine.
Police don't find any weapons on Sammy Dennison.
He is immediately transported to the Major Crimes Unit of the police department for the purpose of an interview.
Sammy was charged with 1 count of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder in the first degree and 2 counts of crime of violence.
They also file 1 count of possession of a Schedule II controlled substance for the crack that they found.
So while the suspect was being arrested, there were still, of course, some police officers at the Loaf and Jug. They were, again, processing the scene. And the 2 gentlemen that were with the suspect, they approached the police and introduced themselves.
Ruben Caro was the bondsman who had bonded Sammy out of jail on his last incident. Richard Wood was the coach for Sammy Denson.
So we told them who we were, how we were associated with Sammy. And they said, well, we need you to come down to the station and answer some questions.
At the station, Richard Wood gives investigators background on the man he believed was bound for Olympic gold.
Sammy Denson is his boxing name because you have to use your given name that is on your passport ID. And that was his given name, and that's what he had to use. He wanted the Muslim faith, and that's what he adopted from Sammy to Jamal. I had the #1 gym in Colorado at the time, and he just walked in. He advanced so quickly. He had won the state tournaments. He beat everybody in the state, the regions, and then went to the nationals all in the first year. He was on track to go to the Olympics. In 1993, he was the 3rd ranked heavyweight in the nation.
But Sammy veered off course.
We didn't know when he started the drugs. He wasn't on them when he first started. When he was clear, he was the best guy around. When he was on the drugs, you could tell because there was an evil in his eyes.
The day after the shooting death of Pamela Edwards, police have arrested her boyfriend, Sammy Denson, aka Jamal. While Sammy is processed, Colorado Springs detectives question his boxing coach.
He could have been, from all statements made, a contender in the Olympics, but he let 2 things get a hold of him. 1, drugs, and 2, his inability to handle personal problems.
Richard Wood explains that he got a panicked call from Sammy in the middle of the night, just after the shooting.
And it was between midnight and 2 o'clock. I got the call, and it was Sammy, and he was talking incoherently and everything.
Sammy's friend and bail bondsman, Ruben Caro, was in the car with him.
And Ruben said, Dickie, he said serious stuff. And I said, all right, you can pick me up. And I got in the back seat, and Sammy was in the front, and Ruben was driving. The energy when I got in the car was just off the charts. The anxiety, the nervousness, and him being nervous and moving and everything, plus the fact that he was on drugs, and he was moving and jerking and everything, and Ruben was driving with his eyes just fixed on the road, just scared to death himself. And I got mad because he was waving the gun around and scaring me that it could go off and everything because he wasn't being very lucid. He was just completely gone. And so when I slapped him and said, Sammy, put the gun away, he listened right away and stuck the gun right in his pocket.
They convinced Sammy to stop at the convenience store to talk through what had him so upset.
So we went in and we sat down in the little booth there, and we were talking and everything, and I said, what happened? And he told me that he went to our house.
When he went to the house, he looked in through the window and he saw Freddie sitting on the couch with Pam. He flipped out.
He sees what he thinks is a makeout session between Frederick and Pam.
When he seen them on the couch together, he said he lost his mind.
He knocks on the door. Pam asks who it is, and he says, it's me, and that's when he busts through the door.
He knocked her down, he put the gun to her heart and pulled the trigger. And then he shot Fred, too.
Sammy was determined to get revenge.
He told me, he said, she broke my heart, so I blew hers out. Exact words.
Reuben and Richard told Sammy he needed to call 911 right away.
I said, we've got to call to see if she's okay. We've got to report it. I said, Sammy, you need to go out and make the phone call. And so he went out and made the phone call.
Moments later, the police closed in.
I'm looking out at the street, and all of a sudden there's one cop car. Then there's another cop car. Then I see like 5 cop cars just driving around the convenience store, but none of them are stopping or anything. And then all of a sudden, one stops and pulls out. And I told Sammy, I said, you got to get out of here.
They also stated that they had seen the weapon and that it was on his body at the time that he took flight.
Investigators send officers to see if Sammy dumped the gun when he ran away.
It was imperative that we try to find this weapon for public safety and evidence. Multiple officers, including 2 K-9 units, were dispatched to the area for the purpose of doing article searches. We were unable at that time. No officer came across the weapon, and we did not recover it during the course of this investigation.
Back at the station, detectives sit down with Sammy.
I advised Sammy of his rights per Miranda and asked him whether he understood those rights, which he stated he did. I then asked if he was willing to waive those rights and grant me an interview. He said no in a roundabout way. He said he was high and didn't want to get himself in any trouble. Once he says he will not conduct an interview with me, all attempts to interview him are ended at that point, and that's what happened.
On February 9th, less than a week after the shooting, Frederick Kenny Hill has recovered enough from his injuries to give a statement.
Frederick Hill was wounded by 2 shots. One that passed through his forearm and entered his upper chest, and the second one grazed his forehead.
Officers go to the hospital to interview Frederick Hill and attempts to get a positive identification on the suspect.
And I show him a photographic lineup of 6 individuals. He's able to positively identify the person I knew as Sammy Denson as being the person that was in the house and actually shot him.
A few weeks later, Sammy Denson's legal team submits a plea of not guilty.
They don't have a lot of forensic evidence. They don't have DNA, and they certainly don't have the murder weapon. They don't have the gun, even though they spent hours that night searching for it. What they do have is really impactful eyewitness statements. But the fact that some of these witness statements were from children under the age of 10 could call their credibility and their reliability into question.
In August of 1993, Sammy Denson goes on trial for the first-degree murder of Pamela Edwards and the attempted murder of Frederick Kenny Hill. The prosecution presents a long list of eyewitnesses.
Gwen Watson, she was able to share, again, with the jury this history of abuse. And of course, she was able to tell the jury what she observed that night, that she saw Jamal or Sammy in the house shooting Pam and killing her. Frederick Hill, who was able to describe viscerally for the jury the savagery that he endured that night when he was shot 3 times. Reuben Caro, the bondsman, and Richard Wood also testified and talked to the jury about that car ride in the hours after the shooting, how Sammy admitted guilt to him and how they had to convince him to call police.
But the most powerful moments come when Pam's daughters take the stand.
They were still very, very young, and they showed up dressed in what looked like church dresses. Tanaya took the witness stand, her feet dangling and unable to reach the floor. And knowing that Sammy was sitting not far from her, she was able to calmly describe what she had seen that night, the night her mom was murdered.
I remember they asked, is the person that hurt your mom here in the courtroom? And I pointed to him. When I did that, he just looked down. He wouldn't look at me, he just looked down.
Although I was young, I just wanted to be a warrior for my mom and stand strong. I just remember that going in that courtroom and him just being heartless. Not a heart or a care in this world. Like 2 little girls. You were such a coward. You took a mother from 2 little girls. You coward man.
For the defense, they had to attack these witness statements. And really, they just tried to show that nobody really knew what happened that night.
When you can't attack the evidence, defense will attack the individuals.
The defense also wants to make sure the jury understands that the murder weapon here hasn't been found. That even though the gun supposedly was with Sammy the entire time, up to and including in that car with Ruben, somehow the gun has never been found. They try to say that that shows that the burden of proof that the prosecutor hasn't been met.
The jury deliberated about 4.5 hours when they returned with a verdict of guilty to 1 count of first-degree murder for killing Pam Edwards, 1 count of attempted first-degree murder in the shooting of Frederick Hill, 2 counts of crime of violence, and 1 count of possession of Schedule II controlled substance.
When they told me that Jamal was gonna spend his life in prison without parole, that was definitely his payback. He deserves to be there. He deserves to spend his life there. He tortured children.
2 months later, he is sentenced to life without parole on all charges. Over a year later, Sammy's weapon is found.
On May 25th, 1994, Colorado Springs police were again called by a resident of the neighborhood where Sammy Denson was ultimately arrested. This neighbor was trimming his rose bushes and he recognized it as a gun. He remembered from when that search and arrest happened that police were looking to see if anyone had found a weapon, and so he wanted to call police immediately.
He definitely wanted to get revenge for her playing with his heart, or that he felt she was playing with him, you know, having another man in the house. You know, this is what happens when you play with me. I told you to stay away from other men.
I believe that she was so openly and free-hearted, she didn't know that evil was right there at the door. I don't think she even had the mindset that someone could be so evil because her heart was so big and so free.
Growing up without a mother was the most toughest thing. We had a grandmother and we had aunts that were there, but not having her around was so tough. We had to learn to do almost everything by ourselves.
I keep my mother's memory alive through me, my daughters, my sisters, my nephews. She's in all of us.
Life on a righteous path.
Sierra had a bright future ahead of her.
But when a handsome bad boy gives her the attention she craves, she goes all out to prove her faith in him.
It was a short road from jealousy to murder for these two.
She was that ride or die. She was in it for the long haul.
And later, 500 miles east in New York City, Crystal Reardon's rags to riches story is one for the books.
Her life took a full circle, from her mother's prostitution to middle-class wealth.
That is, until she meets a man who turns her fairy tale into a veritable nightmare.
She could have had anything and anyone she wanted, but she chose him.
The crime was so senseless, so horrific. It was notorious.
In Cleveland, Ohio, Sierra Johnson is a dutiful and respectful daughter to her single mother.
She had a great relationship with her mom. Her mom was very supportive of her growing up. She gave Sierra a lot of guidance and what's next steps in school and going to church, and they just had a really great relationship.
She was known around the neighborhood as being a good girl. She went to Catholic school. People thought that Sierra would go far in life.
Upon graduating high school, she lands a steady paying job, and she saves up enough money to buy her own place.
Sierra was focused on standing on her own. She was very independent. She wanted to make her mother proud.
Mothers are the most important role models, figures in a young girl's life. These girls will follow very high standards later on in order to emulate what they've learned from their mothers.
After a few failed relationships, Sierra finds herself hoping for someone to share her life with.
She was maybe a little lonely. Maybe she was looking for love again. Maybe something to fill that space in her life. So she was really vulnerable and open to meeting someone, anyone.
And that anyone comes in the form of Anthony Simmons. The tattooed bad boy is not only her same age, but what he lacks in morals, he makes up for in other ways.
He did not fit the mold of what she was used to dating. He had a record. He was very charismatic and open and passionate, and she was very, very drawn to that.
The Catholic schoolgirl fell for the bad boy pretty hard. He was tattooed, he was handsome, and he was quite charming.
Young girls who perhaps have never been around that kind of a person lose themselves in that kind of a relationship with a guy like that.
Try as she might, she can't seem to resist the manufacturing plant worker. So she dives in headfirst and gets swept up in a swirl of feelings. Soon, along with her heart, she opens her home to him.
And it was going well. You know, they were living together, they were doing everything together. His world was her world.
They're getting closer and closer and falling into this mad love affair.
Eventually, Anthony's rule-breaker behaviors catch up to him. A few months in, he's arrested, convicted, and sentenced to 14 months on burglary and attempted robbery charges.
Since Sierra and Anthony lived together, she likely knew that he was getting back into his old ways, but she kind of ignored those red flags.
He went to jail. And even though Sierra could not give up on her man, this is the first time she actually understood the consequences of dating a bad boy.
I always say that when it comes to that kind of love, and you're heading down that road, you better beware.
The lonely heart decides she's in it for the long haul and plays the dutiful girlfriend.
Sierra could not give up on her man. She continued to see him in prison. She wrote him and even bought him gifts during that time.
She did her best to keep their relationship going as best as she could. And they were still very much together, even though he was away in prison.
While Anthony serves his time on the inside, rumors about his girl swirl on the outside. He gets wind that 34-year-old tattoo artist and part-time pot dealer Delshawn Hurd has been trying to make time of his own with his woman.
So one of the many rumors that Anthony heard was that Sierra was given a free tattoo by Delshawn. Not just a free tattoo, but a tattoo on the inside of her leg. He lost it. He could not let go of these rumors he heard for over a year. They haunted him. He thought about them constantly.
The rumors may be just that, but they consume Anthony's everyday thoughts.
So we don't know if Delshawn was really hitting on Sierra, but Anthony didn't care. He didn't have anything else to think about. He was enraged. He didn't want to hear about anyone hitting on his girl.
The following year, Anthony is released from prison, and the couple resumes their romance. But he can't escape the feeling that his girl may have been unfaithful.
And they were together, which is what they wanted, and life was pretty good for them, you would think. But Anthony was obsessed with it.
I'm not mad at you, I'm just mad at him.
He still thought about it, he still talked about it, and he wanted to do something about it.
When someone is in prison, they certainly have a lot of time to think about what's going on in their lives, and sometimes they become obsessed with certain thoughts.
When Anthony can no longer contain his anger, he tells Sierra he's come up with a grand scheme to get revenge on his rival.
Teach this guy a lesson for real, because he messed with the wrong girl.
He wanted to get back at Delshawn and teach him a lesson. And so he set up this elaborate plan to rob him.
The assumption was that he had a large wad of cash because he dealt drugs. No one knew for sure if he had a large amount of money on him, but that's what they thought.
Sierra knows she has to show her man that she is down with his plan.
Sierra was on board, and she didn't care. She didn't care about Delshawn. Whatever Anthony wanted, she was on board.
With his lady love by his side, Anthony calls on his friend Timothy Dancy III for backup.
Timothy actually is a good friend of Anthony's from the streets. He actually also bought weed from Delshawn occasionally.
So Anthony probably thought that he would call on his friend Timothy, who allegedly had experience and also had a record.
Now, with everyone on board, the three of them start devising their plan together.
We're going to have Sierra here to make the phone call. I have Timothy over here who's going to do the action part of the plan.
Then, what Anthony says next sends chills down their spines.
Anthony decided they needed to kill Delshawn.
Ain't no question for me. He just gotta go.
And even though what he said likely shocked the group, no one said anything to stop it.
She would do just about anything.
Boyfriend Anthony Simmons and their friend Timothy Dancy III put in motion an ambush-style robbery murder plot against known drug dealer Delshawn Hurd after rumors swirl that Delshawn was putting the moves on his girl.
Initially, when the three got together, they only wanted to rob Delshawn. But as the discussion went on, they realized how great of a risk it would be for them to actually leave him alive, since he was familiar with them.
Even though it goes against everything she was raised to believe, Sierra is in.
She actually made her choice to show her man that she was going to stand by him and that she did not want Delshawn. This was a choice, unfortunately, that she couldn't take back.
Timothy and Sierra, they didn't go against him. They went along with this plan, even though they knew what the end result was going to be.
Sometimes people will go with some of the most outlandish schemes because they just want to be part of the group and they just don't want to be left out.
The next day, Anthony directs Sierra to call Delshawn to set up a faux marijuana buy.
She knew this was the only way to prove to her man that she was faithful and loyal and had nothing to do with Delshawn.
She does as instructed.
So although nervous, Sierra went forward and she made this call. And of course, Delshawn went along and they made the setup to meet.
Tomorrow night? Yeah, that works.
That very night, the two men head out to Delshawn's place in East Cleveland, while Sierra holds down the fort at home.
We don't know what may have been going on in her mind, but being at home while this heinous crime was being committed, she may have been thinking, oh my God, what have I done?
And no full-fledged robbery murder plot would be complete without some heat.
The guys decided to arm themselves. Timothy actually brought his own 9mm handgun, and then he gave Anthony a .45 caliber pistol in the car.
Anthony and Timothy got ready to take Delshawn out. They had the guns, they had the plan, and they were ready.
An unsuspecting Delshawn waits for Sierra's arrival, completely unaware that he's fallen into a trap. The devious duo park the vehicle and walk up to Delshawn's place, where he's sitting in his SUV, as Sierra had arranged.
Timothy gets out of his car and walks up to Delshawn and starts shooting.
Anthony was watching the entire time as Timothy fired round after round into Delshawn.
It all happened so fast, and Delshawn had no idea there was a hit on his life.
In the moment when Timothy runs out of bullets, Delshawn crawls out of the vehicle and probably thinks for one moment this might be my chance to save my life. But in that particular instant, Anthony comes at him and begins to shoot.
After Anthony fires about 5 shots of his own, Delshawn finally collapses to the ground as the callous pair search for what they came for.
Delshawn is lying there dying. Anthony actually goes through his pockets.
The pair ignore the marijuana that sits in plain sight, the very same one Sierra ordered when she made the call.
After Anthony and Timothy found Delshawn's wad of cash, they got in their car and took off.
Upstairs, Delshawn's mother hears the commotion and rushes downstairs only to find her son laying in a pool of his own blood. She calls 911 in a panic.
She's totally beside herself. She loses it. It's her son, and he's lying in front of her dying.
Delshawn was shot over 20 times and lost a lot of blood. He was later transported to the hospital, but eventually died from all of his wounds.
Meanwhile, the men let Sierra know that they've left Delshawn for dead, and they're headed to Timothy's cousin's place to lay low.
So when Sierra got that phone call and Anthony told her that the deed was done, she knew there was no going back from it.
When a person gets caught up in a questionable scheme, too often it's too late, and they now are just acting on that guilty conscience that has them continuing down the wrong road.
Once safe, the men count their score.
They total it up, and it comes to around $200.
They prepare to divvy it up, but first things first.
they realized that they had to wash Delshawn's blood off of the money that they took.
So then they proceed to clean the money. They clean it in bleach and lay the money out so it can dry.
Blood money is money that has come to you at the cost, the blood of someone else's life. And no matter how much you wash it with bleach, it's not going to change that fact.
Back at Delshawn's, the investigators comb through the scene, looking for any clues that can tell them who killed the tattoo artist. They are hopeful when they come across some promising evidence.
So the police find 2 shell cases, one from a 9mm gun and one from a 45mm gun. So at that point, they figure it's not just one perpetrator, there are 2.
And Delshawn's close-knit community also offers up a solid lead.
Neighbors started coming out and talking to the police and giving what they knew. So before long, it came to the police's attention that a couple of witnesses mentioned seeing a white vehicle leaving the scene.
The police jump on the information and go on the hunt for the vehicle. And once they find it, this crazy triangle will leave Sierra on the outs.
Things got out of control between them.
Later, in New York City, Crystal Reardon will find out the hard way that some men don't make promises they intend to keep.
The crime was covered all over the news. It was dark, grimy.
Regrets after setting up a robbery murder for her boyfriend, Anthony Simmons, and their accomplice, Timothy Dancy III, in the Buckeye State.
So this was all over the news, and Sierra saw it everywhere. She couldn't get away from it. She knew that she was on the hook for this too. So she was nervous, she was upset.
She had never done anything like this. Everyone was talking about this, and most likely Sierra felt scared about what could happen.
Meanwhile, for Anthony, it's business as usual. He even let Timothy borrow the car that they shared, leaving Sierra to be stuck at home with only her thoughts to keep her company.
2 days after the murder plot, police spot the white vehicle they've been looking for. Inside it is Timothy Dancy III. He leads them on a high-speed chase.
As he's evading police, Timothy actually takes an opportunity and throws his 9mm gun out of the window.
A unit recovers the gun. Timothy is then arrested, and he's brought down to the station for questioning, while they conduct a search of the vehicle. Inside, any doubts that this is not the car they're looking for are dashed when they hit the jackpot.
When police searched the car, they found shell casings from a .45 caliber gun that matched the description of the gun used in Delshawn's murder.
The detectives find out that the vehicle is registered to none other than Anthony Simmons.
So Anthony went to the impound lot to pick up his vehicle, and that's when he was arrested by the police. The police took Anthony down to the station, and he denied everything.
Both Anthony and Timothy are charged with aggravated murder based on the evidence found that implicates them. While Anthony denies everything, Timothy tells them whatever they want to know, including the part that Sierra played.
He talked about how Sierra had called Delshawn and arranged a meeting.
Pretty much Anthony told her to make the call to pretty much set everything up.
Sometimes when a criminal finds themselves at the end of the road, it just becomes so much easier for them to bring down anyone who's around them.
Although they have Anthony and Timothy in custody, they know they need more evidence against Sierra to get her case to stick.
There was no eyewitness testimony and no one having her there at the scene. But they had Timothy, and he kept saying that she was a part of this.
The police had a hard time pulling Sierra into the case, and they didn't know what the motive was.
Timothy is offered a plea deal in exchange for his testimony against both of his cohorts, and he accepts.
I'll tell you whatever you need to know.
By agreeing to testify against Sierra and Anthony, his charges were dropped to involuntary manslaughter.
Eventually, an unsuspecting Sierra is arrested. Sierra knows her man has her back. She just hopes he keeps his mouth shut.
She probably trusted that Anthony would not implicate her.
And at a joint hearing, Sierra and Anthony each decide to make a statement. Anthony stands up for his lady love and minimizes her involvement.
Anthony addressed the judge and Delshawn's family. He maintained his innocence and that of Sierra's.
But in the end, his girl only sticks up for herself.
As part of Sierra's tearful statement, she said, "No disrespect, I can't accept responsibility for this because I didn't do it. I didn't kill him."
When people make mistakes, the reality is that they don't want to accept that they've done something really bad or stupid.
Timothy Dancy, who shot Delshawn first and fired the majority of shots, pleads guilty to involuntary manslaughter and is sentenced to 23 years in prison. Anthony Simmons is found guilty of aggravated murder and is sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 36 years. Sierra Johnson is found guilty of aggravated murder. She is convicted and sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 20 years. Sierra's inability to stand up to her man for what was right caused her to lose her way in life.
So she had a clear path to...
Sierra's desire to prove to her man that she only had eyes for him ultimately cost her her freedom. 500 miles away in New York City, Crystal Reardon discovers that real-life fairy tales don't always have happy endings when they involve murder. Growing up in New York, the child of a prostitute and a drug dealer, Crystal Reardon spends the early years of her life hungry and neglected.
Her older sister would go into the kitchen where there was very little food. She would find the can of cold ravioli and pickles and bring them back to the bed for her sisters to eat.
Her mother wasn't there, her father wasn't around, and it was just she and her sisters to fend for themselves. Children and social services actually stepped in and took them away from their mother.
Kids who grow up in abusive families will end up growing into an adulthood that is very dysfunctional.
After a couple of years in foster care, luck shines upon her when she's adopted by a well-to-do Connecticut couple.
Crystal's new environment was literally night and day for her. She went from having no supervision and no parents to now a structured environment.
Her new parents shower her with love, but Crystal can't seem to shake her troubled past with her birth family.
Her life had improved, but she had to get used to the new life.
During the day, this beautiful young girl who has this wonderful, loving family. But at night, the memories of her past creep back in. This kid often wakes up in the middle of the night screaming with night terrors.
You're having a nightmare.
Throughout the years, Crystal's adoptive mother tries to comfort Crystal and get her the help she needs. But Crystal pushes back any way she can, well into her teenage years.
Crystal, in her late junior high years, was getting into trouble.
Every time her mother tried to lay down some ground rules, Crystal often rebelled.
Soon, Crystal's rebellious ways will lead her into the arms of someone that will turn her world upside down.
The crime was notorious. It was so violent. The girl was so young. It was so dramatic in that horrible way.
Crystal had a very promising life, but she threw it all away for him.
After a rough start in life, adopted daughter Crystal Reardon is growing up in a loving home and attending very good schools in Connecticut.
She attended some of the Catholic schools in the local area. She grew up to be this tall, beautiful woman. She began to develop her athletic skills.
She was incredible. She's a great player. And this should have been something to keep her mind off of what had happened to her in the past.
But it doesn't.
She began to get into some trouble. Her adoptive parents tried their best to keep her out of trouble. They weren't serious things, but they were trouble, and they were embarrassing.
Crystal also exhibits erratic emotional behavior.
When someone is affected by a bad past and they're not able to deal with it, the whole world can come crashing down on them, and they're just not able to deal with life.
Her parents just got so tired of her being rebellious and acting out. They felt the only thing that could save their daughter was to send her away.
They decide to send her to Elon, an exclusive boarding school for troubled teens in Maine. They hope the school will help Crystal, but the move backfires.
Crystal still managed to befriend some of the most rebellious teens. One in particular who she moved in with after graduation led her down a path of clear and ultimate destruction.
The girl tells Crystal that if she wants to live with her in the apartment, that she would need to work for the girl's boyfriend. According to court documents, Crystal began to work as a prostitute.
She felt glamorous. She was able to buy things. She bought a secondhand truck. she felt empowered in some way.
With her beautiful blonde hair and high-class pedigree, Crystal was a client favorite and made a great deal of money.
Having men desire her enough to pay to spend time with her also gives her a much-needed confidence boost and makes her feel wanted and beautiful.
And she's receiving the validation that she sought her entire life.
It might have been a situation where this young woman's self-esteem was so low that perhaps she thought being a lady of the night was a step in the right direction.
One night at a party, Crystal meets a guy who seems genuinely interested in her, 35-year-old Draymond Coleman, who, according to law enforcement, is a small-time pimp.
And he was telling jokes and she was laughing, and there was chemistry between them.
Despite his rough exterior, he's funny and charming, and when he wants something, he will stop at nothing to get it.
Crystal was very attracted to Draymond. Big, he's built. Crystal is a blonde, and I guess they found what they were looking for in each other physically.
Her money-making ability isn't lost on the alleged pimp and ex-con with a lengthy criminal history, and he wants her for himself.
Draymond then asked Crystal to work as a prostitute for him, and Crystal's first pimp wanted to keep Crystal.
That is my hope.
And Draymond physically fought the pimp.
He fought for her. He won her and owned her because that was his property. That was the way of the game. That's what pimps do. He was her knight in shining armor, and he won her over.
He moves her into his apartment in the Bronx and takes care of her every need, while she, according to prosecutors, sells her body to pay for it all.
The way that some pimps work is that first they set the lure, being very loving to them, taking care of them, but once they get them in that tender trap, then they will use and abuse them in any way they see fit.
There's always more than one person there. So no matter how much Draymond actually flattered Crystal and showed her affection and attention, there was always someone else on the sidelines. But she was his main girl.
And being his main girl comes with a bit of clout. It means she has power over any other girls in Draymond's life.
So she was always going to be first, and I think that made her feel good.
Because she was put in a position of authority, she didn't mind having to share him with other young ladies because she was the one, at the end of the day, that he turned to the most.
He may turn to her often as his number one, but according to Crystal, he also turns against her from time to time.
It may seem strange and even at points contradictory, but Draymond was actually very jealous and quite controlling at points.
And oftentimes a needy person feels a sense of strange love when someone is extremely possessive. Watching their every move, they feel that, well, this is love. Someone is totally focused on me.
Crystal's traumatic past with her birth parents makes her especially vulnerable to exploitative relationships.
When a young girl has grown up in a situation of abuse, they are much more prone to getting involved with someone who is also very abusive.
Although Crystal keeps her life from her adoptive parents for the next year or so, she does bring Draymond by to visit them, but they're not shy about their feelings about her new man.
I don't know what they'd heard, but they wanted her to end her relationship with Draymond. They also heard rumors of Crystal working as a prostitute, and I don't think they wanted to believe that. And so they were anxious to get her away from Draymond.
But soon, their bond will be cemented forever.
Well, she wanted them to settle down. She probably even wanted them to get married. And when she became pregnant, she was hoping that he would settle down, and he may have promised that he would.
Unfortunately, that's not the case. Draymond continues to demand that she work even throughout the entire pregnancy.
Little does she know that staying in her man's good graces will come at an even heavier price.
The crime was so dark and senseless, it was all over the news.
She knew he was capable of violence, but never murder.
Oh my God, Draymond.
New York City girl Crystal Reardon and her boyfriend Draymond Coleman are expecting a child together.
It's important that a couple are on the same page as to what it is that they want with regard to a family life. If not, in 9 months, they are going to have a disaster on their hands.
Cute little eyes.
Draymond was the worst possible thing for Crystal. Even during her pregnancy, she still turned tricks for him. He was her everything.
I know she's gonna be
She wanted to show that she could be a mother to her baby and provide some sort of security for her baby.
According to Crystal, once she gives birth to a beautiful baby girl, she goes right back to work to provide for her man. But it seems it's never enough for him.
I'm sure she was disappointed and heartbroken that he insisted that she go out and work because she was his major breadwinner. He had to depend on her support.
Crystal is shocked at what he does next, as it proves just how little he cares for what she wants, and it leaves her completely devastated.
Crystal came home one night after working, and the baby was gone.
What do you mean she's gone?
According to Crystal, a call was made to Child Welfare Services, and the baby was now in foster care.
This is probably the most debilitating type of pain that she's ever felt. Her reason for trying to be better has now been taken away from her.
When a person is involved in a very dependent relationship, they're almost convinced by the abuser that this is something that they have to stay in. And they just don't even realize that somewhere they had the power to get out at some point.
Crystal loved Draymond, and she loved the baby, but she had been with Draymond longer than the baby. Crystal knew that the baby wasn't a part of that deal.
Just when she thinks it can't get any worse, it does. A few months later, court records indicate that on a warm summer night, Crystal is working out of a hotel in Weehawken, New Jersey, a few miles from Manhattan. Draymond is out looking for a hustle of his own when he spots 18-year-old Jennifer Moore.
She was the star of her soccer team. Her life revolved around her friends. She was fun-loving and constantly stayed on her cell phone.
The teenager is drunk after a night of partying in the city and tells the predator that she got separated from a friend after their car got towed.
Her judgment was impaired. She was frightened. And the only person that she saw offering help was someone who was at this point trying to be very charming. He said, let's just stop at my hotel that I share with my girlfriend and recharge your phone.
It's just a couple blocks away.
When someone is in a situation of danger or they just really need help, when a good Samaritan comes along, they will embrace that individual because they feel that that good Samaritan is throwing them a lifeline.
When Draymond shows up with the girl, Crystal, usually up for anything, doesn't like what she sees.
He says that this was a threesome and they like to get freaky sometimes, so she didn't have a problem with it. But something was wrong.
Many of the women that he brought for their threesomes were prostitutes. I'm sure she could see that Jennifer was very young, that she was obviously not of this world, and that Draymond was bringing someone here that it could only mean trouble.
She's fine.
Upset and angry, the lady of the house voices her concerns. But Draymond is dismissive and sends her downstairs to pay for the cab fare.
Do what I tell you to do, go pay for the taxi.
Although upset and jealous, being the good bottom bitch that she was, Crystal paid the cab fare. When she walks back in, Crystal sees Draymond lying next to Jennifer in the bed. He's known to sample the goods of the new girls every once in a while. But Crystal became appalled because 1, Jennifer was clearly not a prostitute, and 2, she was unconscious.
Draymond was trying to have sex with Jennifer, and she was fighting him, and she was scratching him.
Crystal has seen her man be violent before. That's not the worst she will see him doing tonight.
and Draymond snapped. He went berserk, and he began punching Jennifer in the face.
And attacks 18-year-old Jennifer Moore while she's intoxicated in the couple's New Jersey hotel. Things take a much deadlier turn when Crystal sees Draymond actually choke the girl until her body goes limp.
Crystal just witnessed her man commit the most heinous act.
Oh my God, Draymond.
I do think it probably triggered everything in her childhood, everything that she'd lived through, that she was frozen.
Draymond tells her they must get rid of the body and destroy all the evidence. As he begins to clean up the crime scene, Crystal stands by his side and assists him.
As Draymond was stuffing her body into a bag, she briefly regained consciousness. She was fighting again for her life.
Crystal can't believe what is happening, but she does nothing to try to stop it.
She had no idea what Draymond was going to do, nor did she know that he was capable of committing such terrible acts. When she saw exactly what he did, she had nothing else to do but just sit there and freeze.
Instead of letting her go, Draymond places a plastic bag over the struggling girl's head and suffocates her to death.
Although she was outmatched in both size and strength, and she fought really hard to live, in the end, he overpowered her and took her life.
More determined than ever to destroy the evidence, Draymond makes Crystal stay with the body as he rushes to the store to buy plastic gloves, ammonia, and nail clippers.
Crystal was alone, sitting on the bed, looking at Jennifer's body, wondering how things spiraled down so much and got so out of control.
When a person is able to clearly think about what it is that they've done, what their actions have been, only then do they realize what it is that they've done wrong.
Draymond returned from the store and they both washed Jennifer's body down with ammonia and clipped her nails in an attempt to get rid of all of the evidence.
They then place her body inside a plastic bag and place the bag into a suitcase, which they roll out to a trash bin a few blocks away that same afternoon.
When a person is asked to participate in a crime, it's a turning point. They could either do the right thing or take the easier route.
The next day, when Jennifer fails to come home and is not answering calls or texts, her family grows concerned and reports her missing.
This young lady never, ever defied her parents, and it was not like her not to contact them. They called the police, who immediately went to the club where Jennifer and her friend were seen last, hoping to find some evidence and find someone who can point them in the right direction.
My daughter, Jennifer, she didn't come home last night.
Investigators retrace Jennifer's steps in hopes of tracking her down, optimistic that someone can break the case wide open.
This was a very high-profile incident. News outlets for all the tri-state area were actually covering this. There was no place between Connecticut, New Jersey, and New York that didn't know Jennifer's name.
As the case heats up, Crystal and Draymond try to lay low, and they even move to another motel uptown.
Despite their fears and all of the news coverage, everything for them is still business as normal.
The duo is living life without a care in the world, almost as if they think they got away with it.
I believe Draymond thought he could get away with murder.
So much so that Draymond keeps Jennifer's cell phone and uses it as he pleases.
Draymond made a crucial mistake. The police were tracking the phone, trying to find Jennifer. He used the phone to call one of his former ladies. The police were able to track down this lady, and once they spoke to her, she began to tell them exactly who Draymond was.
It doesn't take long for the police to show up at the hotel where the pair is holed up together. They arrest them in Upper Manhattan and extradite them to New Jersey. And like a devoted girlfriend, Crystal is careful not to throw her man under the bus, but she does help the police.
She told them where Jennifer's body was. The police then went and found Jennifer's body and recovered her.
Crystal Reardon is charged with hindering arrest, evidence tampering, and prostitution. Draymond Coleman is charged with felony murder. The sexual assault charges against him are dropped. But the kicker is that both are held on a whopping $1 million bond.
The version of events told by these two contradicted each other. It literally was a game of he said, she said, with Draymond pointing the finger at Crystal and Crystal saying he had nothing to do with it. He flipped on her She did not flip on him.
According to Crystal, Draymond starts writing her to get her to do his bidding, even from jail, assuming she can be easily manipulated.
Draymond tried to communicate with Crystal in prison so that Crystal wouldn't testify against him and he could have a better sentence for himself. Draymond tried to say he would take the weight for the entire case. He would write her and tell her he loved her.
Believing her man would come through for her, she turns down an offer for doing only 7 years in prison in exchange for testifying against him.
Crystal believed if she went to trial to prove her innocence, that Draymond would testify in her behalf and tell the court that she was not guilty in any way. I don't think it was in Crystal to be able to sit and give testimony against Draymond.
Crystal's faith in her man is unwavering. That is, until right before her trial, when Draymond pleads guilty to murder charges and decides to testify against her during her own trial.
Draymond gave evidence against Crystal, and I don't believe he had any intention of ever testifying in Crystal's behalf.
And in return for her loyalty, he gave her absolutely nothing.
Draymond Coleman is convicted on 1 count of criminal homicide and is given 50 years in prison instead of a life sentence. Crystal Reardon pleads guilty to kidnapping and is sentenced to 30 years in prison.
Nothing can prepare a person for the ultimate betrayal that they are about to experience from the person they love, because it can be soul-crushing.
Crystal yearned for love and loyalty from a man who loved none and was loyal only to himself.
Crystal stood by him because she was blinded by love, and ultimately, I believe on some level, she was also afraid of him.
She wanted a fairy tale, a happy ending, and she got a real nightmare.
No relationship is perfect, but a woman does not need to be in a relationship with a man who doesn't